question, how would I interpret the spiritual world? Simply, the true reality. Because before you grew in your mother's belly, you existed. You come through her portal into the physical world, therefore, and just to add to that, this physical existence has a limitation on it. So if my soul is a fragment of the supreme consciousness and infinite being that is infinite, and I'm trapped in a finite casing shell, then the experience I have in the shell is just that, an experience. An experience is something that has a beginning and an end. You're meant to learn something from it in the in-between. So this is not reality. This is an experience of a type of reality. True reality is spiritual self. So spiritual world is the true reality.
So then, if okay, no, I see. Yeah. So you're saying essentially, if you do the work, you enter the spiritual realm. If you don't do the work, you reincarnate. So in reality, everyone that goes up is going to be of the same mindset. So it will be peaceful. It's
a simple. Sorry to cut you off. Simple analogy: put oil in water. Those who are of a particular nature of water versus oil sit at different densities. Everyone's going to die. Everyone's going to go. But your experience of the spiritual world is based on your density of heart, going back to the scales of Ma'at. The lighter you are, the higher in the column you sit, the higher the dimension that you sit, your experience of reality is totally different to those that are on the mundane level. So there's levels to this thing.
And it, just to follow on a physical, so for instance, I notice people who honour their temple a bit more in terms of what they put in their body, you can see it. I can see it now very clearly, the way they radiate in the eyes and all of this stuff. The spiritual realm, as you probably know as well, you can't explain. It's a knowingness, isn't it? It's like I don't have to explain. You just know, and you also don't know. You know you don't know. So there's like the experience is like you can't explain this to people. They have to experience it and go on their own journey.
100%. It's called the knowledge of self, not the knowledge of honourable. The knowledge of self. My demonstration is an example of how it can be done, and how it should be done. Because this works for me. I've put this thing together on certain factors and with the science for me. And it's about showing people how you can also do it for you. Because it's knowledge of self. Your second question.
Second question, you said you're above the fight, right? Pig in the mud.
Yeah,
right.
Pigs in the mud, yeah.
For obvious reasons, that makes sense from where your mindset is.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
The question is, if it's all, the question is don't you think that's also a detriment to our own? Or, how I should say it is, how do you find yourself? Because you're speaking like a 1%er. Okay. Right?
Okay.
Cool.
According to, in terms of how you interpret it, I wouldn't say that. But yeah, go on. I understand
so
you.
You're speaking as a 1%er for it to make it digestible for people.
I understand you. Yeah, go on.
Which we understand based on Ant's analogy, she said many times. Not many people are really listening to people like how you're describing it. Yeah. So in that instance then, if you're not participating in the fight, and you're watching the fight, don't you think it's detrimental to our people? And then how would you then go about, how do you see yourself aiding our people?
Cool. I said to you before, I'm above the fight of black versus white, Asian versus white, race this, race that. I'm above that because I understand that is a distraction. Because there's always going to be conflict and war between people in this dualistic realm. I don't like white potatoes. I like sweet potatoes. I like white potatoes.
Plantain.
Even though it's planting. But there's always going to be two sides, right? I can play in the banter, but I can understand there's two sides there, two experiences. And we can have fun with it. That's cool. I'm not bucking over war with my brother because of that. Do you know what I'm saying? And that can happen. I'm above all of that because I understand that the true fight is in myself. It's in, what do I mean by that? It's between the ego and my higher nature, the me and the I. So how can I give you a simple analogy?
No, but that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the other side.
Is it detriment? The reason why.
How does that then aid us as a community?
Cool. It's an example of what you should be doing.
So if more
If
of us were
everyone's
doing
going
that,
in,
yes,
instead of
you
looking
stop
at,
when you take. Okay, this is what I wanted to get at you before about being comfortable in a position of suffering, and being in a position of always being in the struggle, and we get comfortable being under it because just what you're used to, from a subconscious perspective. From childhood, from being in school, you got to work twice as hard as these man to get any good. I know that narrative doesn't really come about anymore, but our generation, when I was the last people to receive that kind of messaging, you're used to feeling that you got to work from the bottom up, and you're distracted from the fact that you are the top head. You are God in flesh, generator, operator, destroyer. You are God in flesh. You have God potential, which is why your skin is dark. You have the mark. You have Ra's armor, the mark of the beast. You have the potential to exhibit godhood on earth through melanin. So, I refuse to limit myself to being in a fight based on a human identification of what people call being black. Even if I use the term more Kushite, I'm not. No. The true purpose of me even identifying myself is that I understand that the war is within, and that by controlling and taking accountability for self as God, as master of the soul, as Lord of the earth, you take accountability for your feelings, for your failings, when you feel jealous or envious. You check yourself. It's a simple example. You check yourself. That's not the right thing to. I accept and acknowledge that I feel it, but I limit its expression in my character. That is to be the alchemist, that is to be the scientist in terms of choosing which portions of your character you choose to manifest. So if you want to manifest badness, fine, but you own and accept that as true conscious and master of self. To do that, bro, you haven't got time to worry about what white man's doing. Yes, things are going on physically and you have to practically live in this world, I understand that. But your focus in terms of how you identify yourself and see your vision and your path as a melanated person, as Kushite, as a Moor, cannot be focused on what other races are doing. What are you doing?
So what if the white man wants to kill you on the basis of you discovering yourself?
That, yeah. So, again, I appreciate what you're saying, but the point I'm trying to land here is that I'm not talking about what the other races are doing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about how you've depicted yourself against your ego and not I. Versus how you see our brothers and sisters. How do you then, if you're working within, which is what you always should be doing, and you're saying you're leading by example, but where you're leading from the space that is a minority, not majority, how do you then aid our brothers and sisters that are
in the other paradigm, is still in the fight?
Yes.
I don't see myself as different from you. I see self. When I see you, I see myself. When I see you, I see myself. So, by doing that, same compassion and empathy that I have for myself, I bestow it onto you. In terms of how I aid by being an authentic example of what I choose to speak about. And that is it. No one is going to help you. No one is going to save you. No one is going to lead you. We are out of the time of organized group revolution. You had Malcolm, you had Martin, you had Marcus, sorry. You had them all. We did that already. That's not going to happen again.
Yo.
It is now the realm of, with the age of information that we've come into in the year 2000.
Every man for
Yeah.
themselves.
It's not every man for themselves. It's because that implies I don't care about you. No, it's I understand that in order for the collective to be well, I must first focus on self and colony. I must first focus on self for the colony to work. So if we're concerned about the group, you want to be concerned about the group? Fix you. Work on you. And that is how you aid the community. And what I'm trying to do with Daft Path is, again, show an example of how it can be done to alleviate yourself from the paradigm of feeling like black is negative and down and whatever, and you have an illustrious history and heritage that you are distracted from. And it's getting to a point now where the world and the earth itself cannot afford for its eldest children to renege in its responsibilities because it is suffering. Remember, the earth is living. Earth is suffering. That's why you see the state of society globally is what it is. You might think it's all political reasons and this person, Russia doing this and America doing this and that. Those are all puppeting factors, but they are the medium through which the pain of the earth is being expressed. It's trying to get rid of a virus.
So to answer,
It's a sweat.
sorry, bro.
Go on.
So to answer for him, I'm really asking.
No, go on, do your thing.
He is being the example. But not everyone's going to be able to catch that.
No.
But they're not meant to.
Yeah.
It's all necessary.
Yeah.
It's all valid, bro.
I want to
I was
say.
just going to say,
Go on,
because
you go.
in what you're doing, that's a threat
Yeah.
to the white man.
Okay.
I know, obviously, everything you've said, it makes sense, but I'm just saying, despite everything we do, there is still someone who has eyes on and still wants to be like, no. How do you deal with that?
I'm okay with that because I don't fear you. I think well, it's not even fear of death because would I want to die right now? No.
No. Yeah.
No, of course not. So yes, I have a natural inclination and fear of death, but I don't fear the intent or action of others based on what I want to do because listen, you can't fake the funk with spirituality. It's not like religion where you can be up in the church and carrying on with yourself.
Yes, man.
Yeah, and then carry on with one way Monday. You can't do that spirituality.
You get humbled.
You know what's going to happen? It works on very, very, very simple laws. What you put out is where you get back. So if you profess this thing and you're doing it in a way to swindle people, people that do. I'm not shouting at people that do reading and stuff. There's genuine people that do the readings, but there's a lot of charlatans out there in terms of this spiritual thing can help you and this, that, and the third. You get sweet success, but universe is like an elastic band, and you can go on, and all of a sudden it goes ping back to its original format and original structure. You can stretch the parameters, but you can't disrupt the order.
You know how I see, right? So obviously, if we are talking about the strawman, right, the ego, that's a idea that's been planted inside you, right? This false identification, false sense of self.
The person.
Your name.
Yeah, your
personality,
surname,
mask,
surcharge.
right? That that is the enemy from within, because
That's true.
that's the enemy, or
Because you've
say,
been serving.
that's who's been signed over, that's who's been registered, that's the birth certificate, that's who's been given to the, you are their property in that way, right? That is the enemy. So he don't necessarily have to be fighting anybody or taking part in anything outside of him, because that's what he's dealing with inside. That's the fight. So it's like,
100.
if we was to speak on the white man and stuff, it's what he's planted inside of you.
Yeah, I get you something as well.
That's big.
I've got,
Yes.
I've got white people in my life that have treated me better than blood family. As a man of consciousness, what do you do with that? Because in one instance, you've got this feeling of being oppressed, which has happened. Yes, it has happened. I'm not ignoring that. But what do you do with those that show you pure of heart and how they treat you, and they don't come from your stock, they don't come from your seed? As a scientist and as an observer, do you disregard that as just an anomaly, or do you factor that into the overall mixing process of understanding a holistic view of existence in itself?
But also that those individuals, because will also be angry if that makes, because this isn't.
But that's their fight.
Yeah.
What do you mean? We'll be angry.
They'll be angry at the fact that
Injustice.
of the injustice
Yeah,
of race.
of course.
Because
Yeah.
like I've had it where I've got a brother who's like, he gets mad because he's like, how the fuck do people think like this? But again, he's grown up around us.
Yeah.
So he gets it. He's like, why would people? do that?
So exactly right. So again, what do you do with that? You either disregard it or you bring it into the mixing process and you say, this was true based on my emotion. It made me feel good 80%, and this last 20%, I kind of don't match up. And most people go, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna leave that alone because I feel better. I feel better being in this purely polarized, black. Anything has to be black, and I don't consider nothing else. That's okay. You can do that. You're gonna limit the picture because you're gonna become unstuck. Because life has manifested itself in the way it is supposed to be. So, as master of your soul, you either deal with that and accept that you don't have the answers for it, but you observe it and acknowledge it, and you register it there as a scientist, as the alchemist, and say, okay, that's there. I need to find a way of how that fits in. All of it might not fit in, but an element, a truth that I can't quite see in this yet fits into this. I'm gonna hold on to that, and that's the work. So that you do begin to come beyond the fight. Because even when I see a white person, I know who I am. So because I know who I am, I don't care who you are. I'm not threatened by you. A quick analogy of nature, the nature. Serengeti, lion, elephant, antelopes, zebra, crocodile. Cool, different. The elephant ain't trying to be the lion. The crocodile ain't trying to be the antelope. The zebra ain't trying to be the monkey. They operate in the same environment within their own parameters. The elephant knows who he is, the lion knows who
This is
who
what
she
we've
is.
been talking about.
Yeah? And they operate in accordance with their own nature. And when everyone is doing that, you get what? The circle of life. Order. The reigns, the order, bro. So what I'm trying to get at is...
Until somebody's hungry.
That's the order.
That's the order
Because the lion
chain
is acting according to his nature.
But everyone knows
Someone's
where
got
to go and where not to go. Because if you go there, things can happen.
That's the balance.
And if you stay within your group,
But it's like, it's not even so much. I suppose it's from a wild survival instinct, staying in your group. I get it.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is the grand scheme of it is life. Life is meant to have a plethora of variations of diversity, and you are meant to reconcile each of those variations into its proper place, so you can create an order and a cycle and a harmony. So it's not about there being no more white people on the planet Earth, because that's not the order and that's not the harmony. It's everyone is here. What's your station in this? When I say station, I don't mean like hierarchy, but in terms of if you have something to bring to the table in terms of the ecosystem as the elephant. You have something to bring to the table in the ecosystem as blah 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 blah. We are siblings, whether we like to admit it or not. And this isn't about kumbaya, everyone hold hands and pretend that differences don't exist. No, acknowledge the variation of differences and understand the difference between. That is the knowledge of self. And only then can there be harmony. Because I'm not, as a white man, you don't feel no need to attack me because you feel threatened by my magic and what I'm able to do. You understand, because melanin is magic. So you understand, as they did at the beginning, which is why the Greeks came to Kemet and were at the feet of the priests, who were female, by the way. The high priests of Kemet originally were female, feminine.
They do it.
The only priests that could go into the inner sanctum of the temples were the women, because they had the pool, they had the gateway. The reason why
Lamar's video.
There's a reason why Spirit spoke to Eve in the garden, and not Adam, not the atom. He spoke to intuition. It spoke wisdom. Okay.
Women of the wisdom.
The serpent represents wisdom. The serpent come down the tree of life and bestowing onto Eve the fruit. The fruit, which is the pineal gland. Eat of the fruit of this tree, you will have knowledge, you become like us.